Now, we start the show in the way that I always love, with my Made in London guest, a person who was either born, raised or made it in London. Quite often it's all three, not always, it has to be said. We've had the likes of Hollywood actor Dev Patel on this slot, global activist Sarah Joseph, Netflix star chef Asad Khan, brilliant calligrapher Satwinder Semi, and many others. If you listen regularly, you'll know just what superb guests we've had. Well, this slot always brings up many talking points, a few surprises as well. Tonight, we have a man who grew up in very humble beginnings in Peckham before making the most of every business opportunity that came his way. Look at his CV, it reads like a book. During his time as a senior figure with Virgin Media, he helped grow the organisation to become an internet market leader. Their revenue went up, get this, from 10 million to 330 million pounds. While with global giant Procter & Gamble, he was in brand management for Hugo Boss. He then led international products and services for Orange. He's co-written a book, Uncertainty Deconstructed. Now he gives precious advice to companies and charities too. He's very much about giving back, as you're about to hear. Dowshan Humzah, very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asad. Great to be here.
Really good to have you here. I've been wanting you on the show for a long time. There's so much I want to talk to you about, which is why I'm going to, if it's okay with you, just press on straight with this.
Absolutely.
With my opening questions. I want to try and get as much as I can in while you're with us. Your parents came here from Sri Lanka. You lived on a council estate in South London. You were eligible for free school meals. So even though you would go on to achieve great things in business and beyond, you definitely weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Not a silver spoon, but certainly a spoon. If anybody came home, they were fed well.
Really?
And I think it's one of those hallmarks, isn't it? When you've grown up in such circumstances, you have an open house and a very giving family, and children just play. Children go into each other's houses, and families look after each other's. So it's a lovely environment to be in. And very different to the London of today as well, growing up in the 80s. So having that open household, having opportunity presented to you, but just having that hunger and desire to take advantage of it.
Before we talk about hunger and desire, I'm just interested about how you portray growing up on the council estate in the 80s in London, a family with Sri Lankan roots. And the reason why I'm just asking you about this is because for me in the 80s, for people I know in that period of time who lived on council estates, it was also a difficult place to grow up. Was it like that where you were? Were you one of the lucky ones where you had good neighbours, you had a good little community there?
We had a great community, and I think that's the big difference when you look back to London then and London today. People look at certain areas and go, well, London's changed. It's changed for the better. But they tend to view that through finance and economics, and not necessarily the social lens. Everybody mixed back then. It was so different. We weren't divided on the obvious lines. We do talk about some of the obvious challenges of racial disparity, social disparity. But kids played football. My best memories are playing 30-a-side in Peckham Park, whether you're from the old blocks like myself, the tower blocks, or the richer families that lived around the park. Everybody mixed. Whereas today I feel London's more divided, more on economic grounds. What do you have? And that's the key concern for me about London today. But the big difference between growing up in the 80s, where people just mixed and money was more secondary.
Yeah. No, I completely hear what you say. I mean, the one thing that I often say to people is that, obviously being Asian myself, if you saw another Asian or whatever at school or on the street, whatever, and you got chatting to them, you didn't ask about their faith. It didn't matter whether they were Hindu, because you're all Asian.
Correct.
Now it tends to be a bit more of an issue of what faith you're in. And
you make a great point there. I think if I just fast forward a bit, when I look at my professional career, the word diversity or difference didn't mean much to me until I left the corporate workplace in about 2009, started setting up my own ventures, and then started advising other organisations. Suddenly difference became more pronounced, and difference led to more division, whereas in the past, yes, it was challenging for many different folk, many underestimated folks, I call us, whether it's women in business, whether it's people of a different colour, a different faith, but we're all underestimated. And those differences have become a bit more pronounced today, I feel, whereas in the past we could be more together. It seems ironic when we talk about progress and the progress that we've made for different sections of society.
Yeah.
But in terms of being more inclusive and together, ironically, London was richer and warmer then, although many will disagree, having seen the notices from the 50s to even the race riots in the 80s. But we only have to go back to summer to see how divided we are. But that division is more today on economic lines than anything else.
That's so interesting what you said. And I want to pick up on this later in our conversation, because this isn't something we often hear. We hear about London being closer and more integrated, and it's the city for everyone. Like I say, hold that thought. I do want to come back to it. I just want to go back now to your early life, because you were awarded, I mean, there you were on free school, or you were entitled to free school meals. You're on a council estate in Peckham, but you were awarded a full assisted place, which allowed you to go to one of the best schools, forget in London, in the country, Dulwich College. You know, that's what you managed to achieve. You were then sponsored by Barclays Bank for your degree at the London School of Economics. You were seriously brainy. If it wasn't for that, as it isn't for a lot of us, your life would have been very different, surely.
Opportunity is key, isn't it? We say education is a great leveller, but I think less so today. And why do I say that? The way we've expanded education, the way that grades have inflated. So what differentiates you if it's not your education? There's got to be more. So when we talk about opportunity, it's not just educational opportunity, it's that social capital we talk about. It's the ability to play sports. That was easy decades ago. There was so much free space. There were so many parks. There were so many youth clubs where you could play sports, where you could interact. Less so now. Playing sports has become a 9 a.m. endeavour. Pay the fee to enter. Get driven there. What happened to all those local sports clubs that we had growing up? So suddenly even the ability to interact with different people outside of your core community or experience wider than just your school has become a chore, a challenge. You need to be driven to a place. You need to go there early. Which is why when we look at the sports players coming up, or when we look at other fields, they tend to be of a certain background, i.e. more economically wealthy.
Yeah. That's funny you should say that. I've noticed that as well. I've noticed that, and I've wondered, is that a coincidence? But the way you've explained it, why that could be the case, you might have hit the nail on the head. So, okay, let's talk about this now, because you clearly don't see London as necessarily, I'm not saying you don't see it as a better place, but as in a place which perhaps provides the opportunity that people like to think it does for everyone. The young Dowshan, who was brought up on a council estate, who went to Dulwich College, who went to the London School of Economics, who made it big in business, in companies that are household names. Would the young Dowshan have been able to do it if you started off now compared to when you were back in the 80s? Which path do you think would have been easier?
That is a great question. And it's a leading question in the sense that I do have to answer. I think it was easier then. Why do I say that? Why do I say that when we think so many ceilings of different shades have been broken down?
That's what I want to know. Yeah.
Opportunity was easier then. Why was opportunity easier then? Because we had places and schemes, where you could play. Places where you could broaden your experience, whether it's football or art. You didn't have to pay. Those facilities were available locally. Obviously, in my case, we had the assisted places scheme, the mass scheme that's, a very pertinent topic today in politics with the introduction of VAT on private school fees, but being able to access opportunity. Whereas now, it is a handful that could access that opportunity, and there is a void that is filled by some charities to give that opportunity. But those changes where we thought we're levelling the field have actually led to a more, let me just say, unequal society. And we've seen that gap between the top decile and the bottom decile in terms of income get wider and wider and wider. Ironically, that's data from the London School of Economics. and Social Policy Institute, where we talk about being more equal, but the actual wealth gap, and dare I say it, the opportunity gap to an extent, have broadened.
Okay. And a lot of people listening will be able to follow that argument. You've explained it in a very simple way. But the next question is, what can be done about it? Isn't it inevitable that London was going this way and that there would become a wealth gap? Some people do inevitably become richer, some people become poor. That's the way it goes. So what? How do we tackle that now? How do we turn that around, would you say?
Hey, great. We could take up the next 3 hours of the show on this one quite easily, because you look at what's happened, what the change is, how we perceive and how we portray the challenges that we have. And we start with our core communities. Our core communities are doing fabulously well. So, for example, the most underestimated community, and when I say underestimated, I use that term deliberately rather than saying less privileged or disadvantaged. You know, most of us who are underestimated have great privilege, great advantages by virtue of our families and our communities. So it's not to detract from that, hence using the term underestimated. But most of those who are underestimated are challenged in terms of seeking that opportunity today, whether it is to explore something new, or, in my case, a big passion of mine is travel. Being able to travel, have the means, have the opportunity to travel, explore other cultures. But then to excel and to stand out in an environment where, again, wealth and income seem to be the two barriers, as opposed to the old get up, just do it adage, and then work that in your community. Communities have changed in London. We are probably the first or the second most diverse city in the world, I think, with Toronto, in terms of the mix of different cultures and communities. But in terms of inclusiveness, how inclusive are we? Can the Dowshan of today play football like he did with a mixed community a few decades ago? Probably not, given how divided we are on those lines. Yes, we talk about those ceilings again breaking down and how different communities have risen, but if we look at what's common amongst them, it is that aspect of wealth and or income.
Now, I know while you've been speaking, several times you've mentioned sport, football and all this. You clearly see it as, you know, really essential that young people from a young age, be they male or female or other, they have access to sports. Is that in order to bring people together? Is that in order to bring different classes together? Is it about being healthy? What is it?
This is a multiple choice question. Option D, all of the above. And it's all of the above. There is the aspect of doing sport for health reasons. Yeah. There is the aspect of playing sport in terms of some of the skills we look for in the workplace, of leadership, working effectively with others, creative problem solving. Sports and other activities allow the mind to wander, allow the body to prosper as well. Just came up with that. But they allows the mind to wander, allows the body to prosper. So we're not just talking about health in it or well-being in today's parlance, but we're talking about the opportunity to engage, meet different people, and just view problems in a different way. So for me, sport, extracurricular activities are essential. And it actually, I'm going to go back now, ties into two of my very early and core principles. The first one, succeed, serve, and share. So of course, succeed is on any metric. It doesn't have to be the obvious career or financial metrics, but serve and share, give back. And there are many ways to give back. But through other activities, that's a great exposition of succeed, serve, and share. The second one, be curious, travel, and explore. Now, of course, I put travel in there. That's my own bias. But that curiosity that comes not just from core academic endeavours, but just mixing with other people, experiencing other cultures, experiencing new things, whether that's playing football, whether that's playing baseball, whether that's playing chess, whether that's going to a community centre, whether that's going to a big bake-off, doesn't matter. Exploring those other areas, being curious, and using that to bring us all together. So the difference there is key. It's a difference that drives our belonging and our togetherness.
Right, I'm speaking to Dowshan Humzah, a very successful business career he's had with household names. He's also about giving back to society, and we're hearing some of his thoughts and ideas on how we need to move a society in order to do that, in order to give young people and others opportunities which would help them prosper and opportunities they would deserve. I'm going to carry on with this chat, Dowshan, but we're going to break now for one of your tracks. We asked you to give us a list of tracks. One of the ones you came up with was Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. Tell us why you chose this.
Wow. I mean, how can you not choose this at the end of the day? This is Marvin Gaye. The track itself, I mean, people will know the lyrics. They'll recognise the intro immediately.
Yeah.
But it was written against a backdrop of two things. One, racial inequality in the States. And people talk about the anti-war sentiment because it was released, I think it was in 1971. Just before my time, let me add. But it was actually on the back of some race riots and some racial incidents. And of course, the message resonated with the Vietnam War and what was happening. But it's also a message of hope in there, and it's a melody of a beautifully composed song that resonates with me in terms of when one or anybody or a community has struggles, and two, the message of hope that comes out as the song sort of crescendos. But as a song, as a composition, it's an absolute piece of genius. One of my regrets, obviously, never got to see the song performed live, given Marvin Gaye's early demise. But if anybody can get hold of a copy of Marvin Gaye in Montreux, at the Montreux Jazz Festival in 1980, masterful performance. He ends his performance on that, having started it with Got to Give It Up, a funk classic, in what was then a very traditional Montreux Jazz Festival. And I'm blessed to have been to Montreux to see a few artists, but even when I go in recent years, the old hands still talk about that Marvin Gaye performance. So yeah, Marvin Gaye, okay. What's Going On many levels.
That's the brilliant Marvin Gaye and What's Going On, the song choice of Dowshan Humzah, who is my Made in London guest tonight, a very successful businessman who's worked across businesses which are household names. We're going to hear about it very shortly, and is really using his time and what he's learned to give back to society now. Again, another cornerstone of how he lives his life and what he believes in. So we've had a chat about your early life in South London on a council estate in Peckham, how you went on a full assisted place to Dulwich College, Barclays Bank, helped pay for your degree at the London School of Economics, which is amazing. And also your thoughts about the importance of having things like playing fields, getting young people into sport in order to bring them together. I'm going to go back now to your career, because you left university, you went into business, and you started at Procter & Gamble, a massive global name who's got its finger in so many pies. Most people don't even realise that they have so many products made by Procter & Gamble or owned by Procter & Gamble in their very cupboards at home. How did you get that job?
Well, I had finance, obviously, through the scholarship and sponsorship with Barclays and the LSE. But that wasn't enough, having worked with Barclays Bank and BZW at the time. That wasn't enough. I wanted to do more. And when I say do more than just sit at a desk and play with numbers. It was make more. And brands, didn't know much about them then, appealed to me. So when the opportunity arose at Procter & Gamble, and you write about it being a global name, but you don't realise how much they own. When I got the role at P&G at Procter & Gamble, I was told I was going to be working on Hugo Boss, which completely threw me, because you expect things like Pampers or Wash and Go and Pantene, the big FMCG, fast-moving consumer good names. I was like, Hugo Boss? Really? Given that I was just out of university and looking for some suits, I knew it was a fragrance business, but being asked to work on the fragrance business and lead it for the UK and launch something called Hugo, which was revolutionary at the time, but to be able to work across the fashion house, certainly helped my sense of fashion and wardrobe. That's gone backwards now. But
did you get a discount on the Hugo Boss clothes?
Yeah, you could say that.
Go on, how much discount?
So we did very well. So I was part of something where I was able to there's two aspects here, I'd say. One was work on the launch of Hugo and developing Hugo as the franchise broadened from being what then, if you go back to the mid-90s, was very much the brand that was Wall Street, actually clothed Wall Street, the movie one, LA Law. It was seen as very materialistic success, and we were able to take that umbrella, that equity as we call it, of success, and expand it into experiential success, and take the brand to a different audience that focused on the experiences. It does tie in partly to my passion for travel, because there's more to life than just what you can measure in financial metrics. But yeah,
and you
launched Hugo.
And you launched Hugo, and you came across some well-known people again who we will know, household names. Tell us about was it an advert, a voiceover? Go on, tell us that story. I like this story.
The global voiceover, we can say the story now, for Hugo Boss at the time was meant to be done by, I think it was Steve McFadden. It's his
Phil Mitchell.
Phil Mitchell from EastEnders. And unfortunately, he couldn't do the voiceover.
Wait a second. He was a Hugo Boss. Seems an unusual choice, but...
Well, it was a different fragrance, and most fragrances have a shelf life of 3 years.
Yeah.
But we were breaking the mould on so many aspects here. And I remember that weekend, it was Notting Hill Carnival, and we needed that voiceover because we were launching this is pre-internet, let me add, pre-broadband, pre-mobile phones for most people, and we were launching in the UK ahead of Germany or the USA, first time ever. We would normally follow a year later. We had a world exclusive at Harrods, and they had this voiceover, the voice I recognised. And when I came to sign the invoice off a couple of days later, it was a gentleman by the name of Trevor Nelson.
Radio 2, Radio 2 now, Trevor Nelson, Radio 1,
formerly
DJ.
Radio 1 and One Extra, but actually on a few hours on Radio 2.
Yeah.
And he became our global voiceover, but more pertinently, at the time, he had joined, Radio 1. He was on MTV, and suddenly we were able to work with him and expand the brand into areas that we hadn't been into nightclubs, into music venues, and really ride the crest of a wave that was really R&B music and hip-hop music at the time becoming the largest genres. And Hugo Boss went from strength to strength. Where fragrances have a shelf life of 3 years, what are we now, 2024?
Still going.
Still going and going very strong. So that's a 25-year plus fragrance franchise.
That is an impressive one to have on your CV. I also know, and I'm only going to touch upon this, at Virgin Media, you get parachuted in there, and their revenue goes up from 10 million to 330 million. That's extraordinary with the ideas and leadership that you've had. What a turnaround. You've made a massive impact wherever you've been. But going back to what you said earlier before we heard the track from Marvin Gaye, you believe in people giving back.
Absolutely.
In serving the community. So many people don't do that. They make it big, they're successful, they've made their money, they're living a good life, and you know they don't want to return to where they kind of came from, broke free from. Why is it so important to you to make sure that you're getting other people up that ladder that you climbed?
It's absolutely key, and it's not just other people like you. A lot of the work that I've been involved in over the last few decades even have been to do with people not like me. So one of the organisations I've supported since 2013 now is 50/50 Parliament, aimed to get more women into Parliament to stand for office, obviously mainly as MPs, but also as local councillors and other elected officials. Now, the nice thing about having a name like Dowshan, apart from the fact that it's unique, is when people read some of my work and they haven't, nowadays, Googled me, they go, oh, we've read what Dowshan's written. When can we meet her? And that's got to be the best compliment. When can we meet her?
Yeah.
When you're working for those who are not like you.
Yeah.
But it's important because it's the best of both. By getting more women into Parliament, by getting more women into positions of leadership, we all benefit, and that's what we seem to forget. The benefit's not just for that one underestimated group, the benefits flow to everybody. I've just come off the back of a couple of events for Black History Month. I'm not a fan of events or award ceremonies or lists, but when we can bring different people together to spotlight an underestimated community and change the narrative for that community, regardless of what that community is, we all prosper. And when I say prosper there, that's not just financially, but that's societally and bringing people together.
Okay. I couldn't agree more with what you say. There's a but coming. And the but is this, that a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, a lot of employers, and the BBC is no exception in this area, they have opened their eyes up to diversity and getting people from all backgrounds into their workforce. But I've heard it time and again for many different employers, big employers, small employers, government employers, across the board, that these people are doing it in order to tick the right box, and that genuine belief that this is the right thing to do for the reasons that you have just said, because it's better for everyone and you're bringing talent from different areas, which is good for business. It's not about that. It's about being seen to be doing the right thing, and it's not about doing the right thing because it is the right thing. What does that matter to you? Does it matter why people are doing it, or is it just important that people do it?
Well, this, in behavioural science, we'll call this virtue signalling. I'm signalling I'm doing something, and it is good. But the intention and the result are not necessarily positive.
Yeah.
So it is important that we do things, but we do things right, and we do the right things. Those are critical. So what does that mean? When we talk about difference and diversity, it's not necessarily the obvious factors that drive us, because when we tick a box, often the person or the people we recruit are similar to those who have gone before. At the most high levels, when we talk about diversifying boards and changing the composition of executive teams at the most senior level, the person we may have appointed has probably turned left on a plane ever since they were young. So what difference are they bringing? Yes, it was harder for them. And I exaggerate for effect here, but I'm looking for people who are truly different, the mavericks, the contrarians, those who've had a challenging journey, those whose journeys can inform us. By chance, you find a great correlation of those mavericks, those contrarians, those who are cognitively different, with those who may be different via the protected characteristics. But my starting point is that cognitive aspect. Now, through experience, I've seen that has worked. And there's a board that I chair where, using that driver of cognitive difference, of experiential difference, something I call poets. Why poets? P for perspective, O for outlook, E for experience, T for thought or thinking style. And because I came up with this concept, I misspelt it deliberately. There's a double S at the end, which is sector and social background, both of which resonate for me. Getting those significant differences are truly what drives performance. Now, that's not a tick box exercise. That is about providing excellence. That is about reframing problems and coming up with truly transformative solutions. So for me, that's the driver, and that gives us a competitive edge, whether it's in the private sector, the public sector, or civil society.
Dowshan Humzah, extraordinary business brain that you have, and we're getting just a little taste of it here, and your insight and how you are trying to change things for the better for people of similar backgrounds as you, people of different backgrounds for you, for people across the board, and it's done with business in mind that is actually helping business. So it seems like a win for everyone. I'm going to pause now before we just have a few more minutes to finish off our discussion. A track which I know you're really keen on, Optimistic, The Sounds of Blackness. Tell us why.
Oh, absolutely. This is a gospel ensemble, The Sounds of Blackness. The track originates from, I think, about 1991. And it's one of those rare tunes that has gone across genres and means so much, so many different people. For me, by the very nature of the track name, Optimistic, you can guess what it's about. It's uplifting, it's inspirational. It is, at its heart and soul, gospel music. It's a track that, through exams, through challenging times, personal, family, otherwise, I've turned to, I've listened to, I've smiled, and hey, I'll dance to in the studio. It's one of those tunes that can cut across your emotions, uplift you. Beautifully sung by Anne Nesbitt, the lead voice within the ensemble, but a track that most DJs could happily play and get people dancing to as well.
Let's listen to The Sounds of Blackness. What a brilliant song choice there from Dowshan Humzah. That Sounds of Blackness, optimistic, beautiful track choice. That was something else.
Absolutely uplifting when Anne comes in with in those terms of sorrow, and then just it builds and it builds. Amazing track. Like I said, got me through a lot of times of challenge, and for many other people. But you can't just think that you not smile. You have to smile. And that's the beauty of that track. I think that's the beauty of music as well.
It is.
It evokes so many emotions.
Couldn't agree more. Great track choice. Now, we're coming to the end of our discussion now. I've got a bit more to fit in here. Something that a lot of people might not know about you. You've made it big in some of the biggest global businesses there are to be had. You've talked about how you launched Hugo Boss's perfume Hugo over 20 years ago, and everything you touch seems to turn to gold. You're also a qualified fitness instructor. Where did that come from? I mean, you look great, don't get me wrong, but how did you find time for that?
No, this was a long time ago. I mean, I love my sports, love sport, love spectating, love playing, and it was a little bit cheeky. One of the organisations I was with, I was about to resign and go somewhere else, and they wanted to retain me. They said, what can we do to keep you? So I just thought I'd have a laugh, effectively. And I love sport, I love fitness. Can you give me some time off and support me to become a qualified fitness instructor? Yeah. And they said yes.
Wow.
But to get it through, I did. But to get it through, they had to provide me with something that could be signed off properly, which was executive education at London Business School, which was great to have as well. But yes, at the time, I qualified as a fitness instructor on
and do you ever instruct people on fitness? Can people hire you?
I past tense, I did. Before, let's say, my fitness levels went down.
I'll be quiet.
But I did it. And then I think it was during 2007, 8, 9 when I did that, and I ran a couple of marathons, including the New York Marathon. But all the money that I made from fitness instruction and the marathons was donated to Click Sergeant, which is, I think, now called Kids with Cancer. They've rebranded.
Good for you.
Click Sergeant
what a
Cancer
wonderful thing to do. What a wonderful charity.
Yes, I love sport. I love fitness.
Wonderful. Right, some quick questions for you. Favourite place to eat in London?
Oh, you mentioned having a guest on here previously, Ahmad, Darjeeling Express.
Darjeeling
Express is wonderful. And there are some great restaurants in Kingley Court, including Ahmad, the Syrian restaurant next to it. So
Ahmad, that's right. I interviewed the chef once of Ahmad, just when he was starting off.
I've been fortunate to have visited Syria, ironically, the week before all the war started out in 2009. So the food is fantastic. But Kingley Court, Darjeeling Express and Ahmad.
Okay, are you a train, tube or a car man when it comes to travelling around London?
I am a walking person.
Are you?
So I tend to walk a lot.
How far would you walk?
Oh, I mean, I could spend the whole day walking across west to east. But if I'm in a rush, it'll be a bus. Why? Because I can do some work on the bus as well by accessing the internet. So I tend to be more of a bus person or walking.
Walking, I like that. I did a 5-mile walk on Monday. First time I walked 5 miles in London. Tiring, but good. You just get to see more of London, don't you?
You get to see and
take
discover
things in which you miss otherwise. No, like that. A recommendation to a tourist visiting London?
Oh, many. Our river. Jump on a riverboat.
I thought you were going to say jump in the Thames. I'll say don't do that. Jump on a riverboat.
Jump on a riverboat. And get the riverboat all the way to Greenwich. If you're going eastward, and when you get to Greenwich, take the cable car and go across.
That's a good suggestion, one that I do very often. Not the cable car, but the boat to Greenwich. Very good suggestion. Now, you are known for being a big traveller. You have touched upon it. You're massive on travel. You've been to over 100 countries. That's pretty much half the countries of the world. Favourite place to visit?
Oh, that is hard. If I can do a short list, I would say the favourite region. Well, I'll be biased. I could say Sri Lanka, if there's an obvious bias there, because I've got to fly that flag.
I've only heard good things about Sri Lanka,
Absolutely.
So that's one to visit.
Great cuisine as well. But South America's not travelled to as often, particularly from people here. We'll tend to go to places where the British had a presence. But South America, Patagonia, for the landscapes and the wildlife, would rank as my favourite place. But then, like I said, it's a hard question. So Guatemala, I will pick out Syria which is very heartbreaking given what's happened there.
Yeah.
But if you've pushed me on one, Patagonia across Argentina and Chile.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. One quick question. This is going to be really quick. We're actually over time. But listen, one quick question. I want to ask you this because of some of the things you said. If you were mayor for a day and you had a magic wand, you could do one thing to make London a better place. And I'm kind of thinking about what you've talked about, young people and all that. What would it be? What would be the one thing that you'd say, come on, guys, let's change this?
I think the mayor's done a great job in terms of equalising via the free school meals initiative. I've talked about sport. And it will be to broaden access to sport. Sometimes it's the most simple things. Why have sports clubs kicking off at 9 o'clock in the morning? Yeah. For me, that doesn't work. So it'll be opening up our playing fields, our indoor spaces for sport, free for all.
Dowshan Humzah, you lead by example. Your principle of succeed, serve and share is one that you practice. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today and Made in London.